I can go about the thrashing machine.
Yeah, that would be good.
But let me go. What I said about the people that dug the holes for the highline poles, and that's when we got electricity, and of course then we got refrigerator and deep freeze and lights in the house and barn.
What was?
Are you recording?
We're recording now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And
I didn't know.
we had like Dad always, since we had quite a few horses, we raised quite a bit of oats, and of course we sold some too, quite a bit. And they would come out with a thresher, and so they would had wagons, and they would go out in the field and load. It was in shocks and in bundles, and they would load the bundles and on the wagons and come back and throw them in the feeder and the thrasher, and that's where we got our grain.
What would the thrasher do? Just like hit the plant matter so that the seeds would break
It was
off?
hooked up to a tractor, and it would go through just like a combine. It had a cylinder and everything combine has, and then it had a big fan on the back that blew it in a big pile behind the thrasher. And and that was just a stack of feed that the cattle would feed in the wintertime. So anyway, but after, okay, I think you want to say.
Yeah, Grandma, tell me a little bit about your childhood and growing up and the house you lived in and all of that.
Well, when we moved to on the farm, Dad had rented a farm, and it was close to my mother's sister, Arthur and Tilly were. What's the last name? Arthur and Tilly.
Wilbur.
And we had good neighbors. We had people, friends, lots of friends. And anyway, we lived there for many years, but my dad had a really hard time. It wasn't a very big farm, and he didn't make real good big crops, but we always struggled, but we always had plenty to eat. A garden, and one of the things that I enjoyed a lot was on Saturday evening we'd make a freezer of ice cream. Had to turn it ourselves, and my dad and I, we're the ones that really liked ice cream. We ate most of it.
So did you get your own cream, your own milk,
Yeah, we
and
had
everything
milk
on the farm?
We always had cows. That we had our own milk and our cream and chickens, everything, garden, and anyway, I went to school when I wasn't even 6 years old yet. I had birthday in November, so I went to school in September. And I didn't talk very much English at the time. It was mostly German what my parents talked. So we soon learned. I had to learn, and my parents had to learn English. And I was just a poor little girl, you know. And then when I was in the 5th grade, I had to have an appendix operation. And at the time, in those days, they didn't let you do anything. I had to stay in a hospital. It seemed like 2 weeks. When the time I got home, I was supposed to stay in bed 2 more weeks. Of course, being stubborn, I didn't. And I certainly, later on they found out it was better to everybody get up and walk. And so, but I didn't get to go to school. That was a very hard time. And when I went back to school, my teacher wasn't very sympathetic. She thought I should know everything, and I really had a hard time at the time, but I made it. And I went all through high school. Of course, we didn't have a whole lot. I didn't have quite the clothes that other girls had, but I made it through school. And I had a good friend that her and I were going to go to nursing school. Then she changed her mind. She wouldn't go, so I didn't go. And I just stayed at home for 5 years, and I helped on the farm.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had one brother and one sister. I was the oldest, and I had a brother 16 months younger than I, and my sister was 9 years younger than I. And so actually my parents had 2 families. And
now did your...
but then we, I don't know what year my dad bought a farm. He bought a farm, so we moved there. And during the World War II, or was it before? But everything was rationed.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had to get a permit so he could build a house. And so we lived on the farm, and we built us a new home. And when I graduated, I was in there about 2 years in the new home. And so that was nice. So we upgraded a lot in those years, yeah.
And did your mom and dad come over from Germany, or was it much further in the family? What do you know about your distant family history?
Well, I think, earlier they came from Germany, but I didn't.
Was it your grandfather and grandmother?
Yeah, probably. I don't remember too much about that. But they were from Germany. They talked German. My parents talked German until I went to school. So, anyway.
Was it tough being German, like during World War I, World War II time period?
Not for us. Not for us. But my dad was real interested in politics, and that, he kept up with the news. I remember when I was a kid, I loved to read, and I just, every chance I had, I would read. And and we had a radio. We didn't have television, of course. And I would sit by the radio and read my book. And my mother always had chores for me to do, and I know it was hard on her because she wanted me to be busy and not always just reading. But I always wanted a bicycle, and of course my parents didn't have money to buy me a bicycle. And in later years, my sister, as she was growing up, they had a contest at the grocery store at the Miles. And so anyway, my sister won that bicycle, but for some reason they were out of town or something. And so her best friend, we let her have the ticket, so she won the bicycle.
Did she let you ride it?
No.
Oh, no.
It caused a lot of hard feelings, actually, and that was one of the things that was a real disappointment.
Her friend kept the
She
bicycle.
kept the bicycle. But anyway, that was one of the. But then, of course, my dad had felt bad about it, so he bought her one. So she got the bicycle, but I never did. But anyway, we always celebrated Christmas, and we always had. One thing about talking about Christmas, when we lived, before we had the new house, we lived close to the Wilbergs, and when I was growing up, my aunt had Christmas Eve at her house, and she had what you call a parlor, living room really, and the door was shut. There was a tree, but no one ever could go in that room until Christmas Eve. And I think she even had candles on the tree, or lights or something. And it was such a thrill to open the door on Christmas Eve, and all the presents and the tree. First time we could see the tree. It was really something.
Sounds exciting.